Here at the Weybridge factory, they're still building around 15 super blowers a year by the time-honoured craftsmanship, hand assembly and hand building methods. But at AC, the emphasis has switched very much to the new car, the Ace, the car that broke the company. It's a lovely looking car. It reminds me a bit of the AC 427 Frau convertible from the 60s. All the extras you'd expect for a car in this price range, feels well screwed together too, and it gives enough go. Now can't you just imagine yourself cruising down the seafront at Nice in this car? It's exactly the right image, it's the right sort of weather. Just take me to the ferry. Mind you, this is no boulevard cruiser. This car is fitted with the superblower engine we saw in the Cobra. You can have it in unsupercharged 5-litre form, or you can have it in 4.6 quad cam, the smoothest V8 around, which is designed for the new Mustang. And if you want to use it, the performance is there. 0 to 60 again, round about 5 seconds, maximum speed governed to 155 miles an hour. Back in the 1950s, when most cars on Britain's roads were of the Ford Pop or Morris Minor level of performance, AC Cars, one of Britain's oldest car manufacturers, came out with a jaw-droppingly beautiful sports car called the Ace, capable of 100 miles an hour. Now, the story of how Carroll Shelby subsequently shoehorned a fire-breathing Ford V8 into the chassis and created the brutal Cobra is the stuff of motoring legend. It's pretty much the mixture as before. Oh, I'm getting old. Take a big Ford V8, in this case the 5-litre supercharged 320 brake horsepower unit, slot it into the same old body and chassis, make it meet modern emission, noise and safety regulations, slap on a price tag of £70,000 and Bob's your uncle. But of course there's far more to it than that. They've spent a great deal of time and money refining the car over the original Cobra. The first 289s and 427s were real animals. You were driving them was like playing Russian roulette. You never knew when the bomb was going to go off. And if the Cobra did bite you, you knew it was going to be fatal. But that old Cobra trademark is still here in the superblower. And that's performance. 0 to 60 around 5 seconds. And maximum speed, well, when does your wig blow off and your false teeth fall out? It's still the best adrenaline pump that man has yet invented. Trouble with the AC original for me is the number of replicas on the market. Now, when any Tom, Dick or Harry can build a Sierra-based replica of this car for 12,000 quid, then spending 70,000 on the original starts to lose a bit of the charisma. Now, we promised you an exclusive treat, and here it is. The AC Aseca, the second of the pillars upon which the future wealth and prosperity of AC cars will be based. It's the front end of the Ace. The wheelbase is lengthened by 240 millimeters and designed by Ron Saunders, their chief designer. It's a coupe with aluminium body and a full 4-seater capacity. We first saw it at the motor show last year. That car was a non-runner. They've been working on it here at Byfleet, and now it definitely does run. And we're going to be the first British team allowed to drive it. Now, this, after all, is an engineering prototype, so one respects the factory. We're not going to go for ultimate performance figures, but with a 4-cam V8 developing 320 brake, AC estimate the 0 to 60 in around 5.5 seconds, and a governed maximum of around 155 miles an hour. It's the sort of car that's designed for cruising across continents. Beautifully trimmed inside, as you would expect. Lovely leatherwork, nice walnut, good instrument display, and all done in-house by AC themselves, which is quite surprising in these days when most components are bought out. Few shakes and rattles in this car, but as I say, you'd expect it in a prototype. And very good room for your mates in the back. It's difficult to form complete road impressions on such a short acquaintance, but very light steering. It feels extremely sure-footed with this width of rubber on the road. Nicely weighted steering, although at full lot with some tyre scrub that indicates they've got a bit of work to do on their steering geometry next. Borg Warner T45 gearbox with short throw, but they anticipate that when they get into production, automatics will be the preferred option. And in the crowded traffic conditions of Weybridge, it doesn't overheat, it doesn't fart and bang like a performance car. It's starting to show its true colours as a quiet, dignified, gentleman's high-speed carriage. At the back, under the smooth lines, a tailgate lifts to reveal substantial luggage accommodation. There really is room for your golf clubs in here, and on the production versions the seats will fold forward for more luggage capacity. Again, everything beautifully trimmed in suede and carpet. This is still very much a prototype. The tailgate will probably be a bit wider in production cars. Lovely shape. It reminds me of early Bristol 400s, aerodynamic contours, and no bad thing for that. AC say the car will sell for £70,000 when it's launched. They're already working on car number 2, and get your name down on the list, because they're only going to build initially about 1 a week. You always feel sorry for tiny little independent companies like this fighting for survival in a world dominated by the industry big boys. On the basis of our visit to Weybridge, the air of cheerful optimism is infectious. If effort and commitment count for anything, they do deserve to succeed. Let's hope there's enough people out there ready to lay out their cash in a very good cause.
Most manufacturers just sell cars, but not a manufacturer like Jeep. They do much more than provide you with 4 wheels to get you from A to B. When you buy a Jeep, you buy a whole lifestyle as well. Now, you may live in a semi in Croydon, but having one of these parts in your driveway makes you feel a little bit more adventurous. I reckon that if John Wayne could have got down off his horse, then this would have been the kind of car he chose to drive. So I imagine that the designers at Jeep realised they had a huge act to follow when they sat down to work on the new version. New version, I hear you ask? Well, that's actually what this is. It may not look like it, but it is the all-new Jeep Grand Cherokee 1999. Even though there aren't enormous changes in styling, don't think for 1 minute that this is just a revamp. There are actually only 127 parts carried over on this version from the old. Most of those are just nuts and bolts, the largest of which is the oil filter on this 4-litre version. Now, the Grand Cherokee sits on the same wheelbase as the old model, but it's a much bigger vehicle. It's 110mm longer, 54mm wider and 30mm higher. But even though it's grown in every direction, it's not a huge hike to get into it. All you need is one dainty little step and you're in. As soon as you get inside the cabin, you notice the feeling of quality. You sink into really comfortable leather seats. Everything feels very refined and it's very well made. If gadgets are the thing that do it for you, then there are plenty of them in here. There's electric everything. There's a great stereo, dual air conditioning, and my favourite, heated seats for those cold winter mornings. Now I've got to say there's also plenty of space. There's lots of headroom and there's certainly enough legroom for the driver and the passengers. And if you work your way around to the back, you'll see the load area is now bigger than it used to be. That's because that huge spare tyre now lives underneath the cargo floor instead of taking up valuable space. Now improvements, as we all know, cost money. So how many more pennies are you going to have to pay to get behind the wheel of the all-new improved Grand Cherokee? Well, the answer is actually not 1 penny more. That's because this 4-litre Limited is exactly the same price as the version it replaces. That's just under £30,000. Perhaps the Chancellor, Mr Brown, could do with a few lessons in reducing inflation from the chaps at Chrysler Jeep. The old Grand Cherokee was one of those cars that I couldn't ever imagine getting any better. That was until I drove the new version. It really is so impressive. It's refined and it's luxurious, and it's almost hard to imagine it doing all those adventurous things that the Jeep is so well known for. So because it's gone all comfortable and civilised, does that mean it's gone a little bit soft around the edges? Well, I'll be finding out in the wilds of Scotland right after the break. It's all very well producing an off-roader that looks the part, but if in reality it's nothing more than a King's Road cruiser that won't even cut through the skin of your custard, then what's the point? But if you've got this badge on the front of your 4x4, it's a pretty safe bet that you can get into some serious mischief in it, particularly when you've got the whole of the Scottish Highlands to go at. Well, I've got my Grand Cherokee, it's got all the technology and it's time to put it to the test. There's an off-road course in the Scottish Highlands waiting for me, but before I put a £30,000 brand new vehicle through that, maybe I should get a few tips from the experts first.
Well, the first tip is to be very careful. We're going to be driving through some very narrow sections of road. We've got some steep uphills and downhills. And obviously with a vehicle like this, you've got a lot of power there, a lot of traction, especially with the new quad drive system. So you do need to be careful listening to the information that I'm going to be giving you over the radio as we go along, which will be on techniques and how to drive the vehicle.
Well, it sounds like the Cherokee is certainly up for it. I suppose it's time to see if I can handle it. One of the rules in off-roading is that when you go down a hill, you don't use the brakes. They're very strict on this. However, this hill is so bad that they've told us we have to use the brakes this time. Can't wait for this one. I can't believe we're going to go down that. We're going to go straight into the lock. I must be mad. Oh! Oh, God, have you seen that thing go? Well, it was a struggle to get up here, but once you're at the top, I've got to say the views are absolutely spectacular. And I've just learnt a survival tip. If you get stranded in the wilderness without any toilet paper, just grab a handful of moss. That was absolutely amazing. I've had such a good time up there. And I'd like to say that it's my driving skill that's got me through it all. But I've got to be honest and say that when you're in a vehicle like the new Grand Cherokee, all you really need to do is put your trust in the vehicle and just keep an eye on where you're going. This is just so competent. Now I know that 93% of off-roaders never see more than the odd trundle up a country lane or maybe the school run. But if you fancy finding out what an off-roader can really do, then I can report that the Grand Cherokee performs as well on-road as it does off. Go on, go and find yourself some mud. You don't know what you're missing.
At the turn of the century, motoring for most people meant a trip on a newfangled petrol engine bus like these. Cars were for the fortunate few, and today at Beaulieu I'm going to join that fortunate few and drive a vehicle from 1904, a single-seater de Dion Bouton Model Q. So, this is the beast, is it?
Yes, this is it.
Where do we start?
Well, it's not quite as simple as that, Steve.
Right.
This car has already claimed 6 people's arms, so there's a few things you need to know about this car before we go off on the road.
How did it claim the arms then?
The starting handle, basically. If you start the car incorrectly, the handle will come back the wrong way and it will break your wrist.
What about the controls? Are they the same as a modern car?
Not at all.
Driving lesson all round then, huh?
You need more hands than you do feet.
Oh, right. Sounds like I've bitten off more than I can chew here. Let's give it a go anyway. Right, 3 pedals, looks pretty normal. What's the score?
3 pedals, yes, but pedals that do different things in different places.
Right.
Right, the first one there, the middle one rather,
Yep.
is the throttle pedal.
Uh-huh.
Okay, not a brake, throttle pedal.
The smallest one, right?
Okay. The right-hand one is a reverse pedal for when you want to go backwards.
Right.
Okay. But the left-hand one is a brake, but a brake that works on the transmission rather than the wheels.
So it's a panic brake.
It's a panic brake. We don't tend to use it.
Right.
All your braking is done via the handbrake.
Yep.
Okay. And the handbrake works back to front. You push it forwards to go on. Back
Right.
off.
Yep.
Ignition control, very important, as I was saying.
Yep.
Retard the ignition to start it, and retarded is fully down. Okay. Once the engine is running, then we will advance it up.
All sounds reasonably simple, but I'm not feeling that lucky. Would you do the honours and start me, please?
Just this once.
Great, thanks. So what was it said? Oh yeah, pull this forwards, give it some gas, handbrake off, oh gosh, leave off the exhaust, oh god dear, right, okay, I think we got it now. Don't die, please! Okay, we're moving. feel the throb. Every last beat. And here we go, we're on the way. Right, here we come. I'll tell you what, this is really good fun. Very, very open air motoring. Bit wobbly, bit shaky, but enormous fun. There's so much grunt from that 8 horsepower single cylinder engine. Of course, got no idea what speed I'm doing, no speedometer, not much in the way of brakes, plenty of air conditioning. This is the life. These cars were very, very expensive at the time. £200 might not sound much now, but remember the average wage at that time in Britain was £70 a year. So this car represents 3 years' wages for your average person. And there was no hire purchase agreements to be had then either. You know, I reckon motoring has come a long way since those pioneer days.